Appendix. General Notes. Page 50. Titles. In a passage which forms a part of the Roman canon law, Pope Innocent III declares that the Roman pontiff is the vicegerent upon earth, not of a mere man, but of very God. And in a gloss on the passage, it is explained that this is because he is the vicegerent of Christ, who is very God and very man. See Decretal Domini Gregori Papae IX, Liber 1, De Translation Episcoporum, Title 7, Chapter 3, Corpus Juris Canonici, Edition Paris, 1612, Tom 2, Decretal, Column 205. For the title Lord God the Pope, see a gloss on the Extravagantes of Pope John the 22nd, Title 14, Chapter 4, Declaramus. In an Antwerp edition of the Extravagantes, dated 1584, the words Dominum Deum Nostrum Papam, Our Lord God the Pope, occur in column 153. In a Paris edition, dated 1612, they occur in column 140. In several editions published since 1612, the word Deum, God, has been omitted. Page 52. Image worship. The worship of images was one of those corruptions of Christianity which crept into the Church stealthily, and almost without notice or observation. This corruption did not, like other heresies, develop itself at once, for in that case it would have met with decided censure and rebuke. But making its commencement under a fair disguise, so gradually was one practice after another introduced in connection with it, that the Church had become deeply steeped in practical idolatry, not only without any efficient opposition, but almost without any decided remonstrance. And when at length an endeavor was made to root it out, the evil was found too deeply fixed to admit of removal. It must be traced to the idolatrous tendency of the human heart, and its propensity to serve the creature more than the Creator. Images and pictures were first introduced into churches, not to be worshipped, but either in the place of books to give instruction to those who could not read, or to excite devotion in the minds of others. How far they ever answered such a purpose is doubtful, but even granting that this was the case for a time, it soon ceased to be so, and it was found that pictures and images brought into churches darkened rather than enlightened the minds of the ignorant, degraded rather than exalted the devotion of the worshipper. So that, however they might have been intended to direct men's minds to God, they ended in turning them from Him to the worship of created things. J. Mentum, The Seventh General Council, the Second of Nicaea. Introduction, pages 3-6. For a record of the proceedings and decisions of the Second Council of Nice, A.D. 787, called to establish the worship of images, see Baronius, Ecclesiastical Annals, Volume 9, pages 391-407, 1612 Antwerp edition. J. Mentum, The Seventh General Council, the Second of Nicaea. Ed. Stillingfleet, Defense of the Discourse Concerning the Idolatry Practiced in the Church of Rome, London, 1686. A Select Library of Nicene and Post-Nicene Fathers, Second Series, Volume 14, pages 521-587, New York, 1900. C. J. Heffel, History of the Councils of the Church, from the Original Documents, Book 18, Chapter 1, Section 332-333, Chapter 2, Section 345-352, T&T Clark edition, 1896, Volume 5, pages 260-304, 342-372. Page 53. Edict of Constantine. The law issued by Constantine on the 7th of March, A.D. 321, regarding a day of rest, reads thus: Let all judges and all city people and all tradesmen rest upon the venerable day of the sun. But let those dwelling in the country freely and with full liberty attend to the culture of their fields, since it frequently happens that no other day is so fit for the sowing of grain or the planting of vines. Hence the favorable time should not be allowed to pass, lest the provisions of heaven be lost. A. H. Lewis, History of the Sabbath and the Sunday, pages 123 and 124. Second edition, revised, 1903. The original, in the Codex of Justinian, Liber 3, Title 12, Leg 3, is quoted by Dr. J. A. Hesse in his Bampton Lectures on Sunday, Lecture 3, Paragraph 1, and by Dr. Philip Schaff in his History of the Christian Church, Volume 3, Section 75, Paragraph 5, Note 1. See also Mosheim, Ecclesiastical History, Cent. 4, Part 2, Chapter 4, Section 5. Chambers Encyclopedia, Article Sabbath. Encyclopedia Britannica, 9th edition, Article Sunday. Peter Heylin, History of the Sabbath, Part 2, Chapter 3, 2nd edition, revised, London, 1636, pages 66-67. Page 54, Prophetic Dates. See note for page 329. Page 56, Forged Writings. Among the documents that at the present time are generally admitted to be forgeries, the donation of Constantine and the Pseudo-Isidorian decretals are of primary importance. In citing facts concerning the question, when and by whom was Constantine's donation forged, M. Gosselin, director of the Seminary of Saint-Sulpice, Paris, says, "Though this document is unquestionably spurious, it would be difficult to determine with precision the date of its fabrication. M. Dumarca, Muratori, and other learned critics are of the opinion that it was composed in the 8th century, before the reign of Charlemagne. Muratori, moreover, thinks it probable that it may have induced that monarch and Pepin to be so generous to the Holy See." Gosselin, The Power of the Pope During the Middle Ages, Volume 1, page 321. Translated by the Rev. Matthew Kelly, St. Patrick's College, Maynooth. Baltimore, J. Murphy and Company, 1853. On the date of the Pseudo-Isidorian decretals, see Mosheim, Ecclesiastical History, Book 3, Cent. 9, Part 2, Chapter 2, Section 8. As Dr. Murdoch, the translator, points out in a footnote, the learned Catholic historian, M. l'Abbé Fleury, in his Ecclesiastical History, Dissertation 4, Section 1, says of these decretals that they crept to light near the close of the 8th century. Fleury, writing near the close of the 17th century, says further that these false decretals were looked upon as authentic for the space of 800 years, and it was with much difficulty that they were given up in the last century. It is true that at present there are hardly any, though meanly instructed in these matters, who do not acknowledge that these decretals are false. Fleury, Ecclesiastical History, Book 44, Paragraph 54. G. Adams Translation, London, 1732, Volume 5, page 196. See also Gibbon, Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, Chapter 49, Paragraph 16. Page 57, Dictates of Hildebrand, Gregory VII. See Baronius, Ecclesiastical Annals, Ann 1076, Antwerp edition, 1608, Volume 11, page 479. A copy of the dictates in the original may also be found in Giesler, Ecclesiastical History, Period 3, Section 47, Note 4, edition 1836, translated by F. Cunningham. An English translation is given in Mosheim, Ecclesiastical History, Book 3, Cent. 11, Part 2, Chapter 2, Section 9, Note 8, Soames edition, translated by Murdoch. Page 59, Purgatory. Dr. Joseph Fa de Bruno thus defines purgatory. Purgatory is the state of suffering after this life in which those souls are for a time detained who depart this life after their deadly sins have been remitted, as to the stain and guilt, and as to the everlasting pain that was due to them, but who have on account of those sins still some debt of temporal punishment to pay, as also those souls which leave this world guilty only of venial sins. Catholic Belief, page 196, edition 1884, Imprimatur Archbishop of New York. See also K. R. Hagenbach, Compendium of the History of Doctrines, Volume 1, pages 234 to 237, 405, 408. Volume 2, pages 135 to 150, 308, 309, T&T Clark edition. Charles Eliot, Delineation of Roman Catholicism, Book 2, Chapter 12. Catholic Encyclopedia, article Purgatory. Page 59, Indulgences. For a detailed history of the doctrine of indulgences, see the Catholic Encyclopedia, article Indulgences, contributed by W. H. Kent, OSC, of Bayswater, London. Karl Ullmann, Reformers Before the Reformation, Volume 1, Book 2, Part 1, Chapter 2. M. Creighton, History of the Papacy, Volume 5, pages 56 through 64, 71. L. von Ranke, History of the Reformation in Germany, Book 2, Chapter 1, paragraph 131, 132, 139 through 142, 153 through 155. Second London edition, 1845, translated by S. Austin, Volume 1, pages 331, 335 through 337, 343 through 346. Charles Eliot, Delineation of Roman Catholicism, Book 2, Chapter 13. H. C. Lee, A History of Auricular Confession and Indulgences. G. P. Fisher, The Reformation, Chapter 4, Paragraph 7. On the practical outworkings of the doctrine of indulgences during the period of the Reformation, see a paper by Dr. H. C. Lee entitled "Indulgences in Spain," published in "Papers of the American Society of Church History," Volume 1, pages 129 through 171. Of the value of this historical sidelight, Dr. Lee says in his opening paragraph, "Unvexed by the controversy which raged between Luther and Dr. Eck and Sylvester Prierius, Spain continued tranquilly to follow in the old and beaten path, and furnishes us with the incontestable official documents which enable us to examine the matter in the pure light of history." Page 59. The Mass. On the doctrine of the Mass, see Cardinal Wiseman's work, "The Real Presence of the Body and Blood of Our Lord Jesus Christ in the Blessed Eucharist." Also Catholic Encyclopedia, article Eucharist, contributed by J. Pohl, S.T.D., Breslau. Canons and Decrees of the Council of Trent, Session 13, Chapters 1 through 8, London edition, 1851, translated by T. A. Buckley, pages 70 through 79. K. R. Hagenbach, Compendium of the History of Doctrines, Volume 1, pages 214 to 223, 393 through 398, and Volume 2, pages 88 through 114. J. Calvin, Institutes, Book 4, Chapter 17 and 18. R. Hooker, Ecclesiastical Polity, Book 5, Chapter 67. Charles Eliot, Delineation of Roman Catholicism, Book 2, Chapters 4 and 5. Page 65. Waldensian Versions of the Bible. On early Waldensian translations of portions of the Bible into the language of the common people, see Townley, Illustrations of Biblical Literature, Volume 1, Chapter 10, paragraphs 1 through 13. E. Petival, The Bible in France, Chapter 2, paragraph 3, 4, 8 through 10, 13, 21. Paris edition, 1864. G. H. Putnam, The Censorship of the Church of Rome, Volume 2, Chapter 2. Page 77. Edict against the Waldenses. A considerable portion of the text of the papal bull issued by Innocent VIII in 1487 against the Waldenses, the original of which is in the library of the University of Cambridge, is given in an English translation in Dowling's History of Romanism, Book 6, Chapter 5, Section 62, edition 1871. Page 84. Indulgences. See note for page 59. Page 85. Wycliffe. For the original text of the papal bulls issued against Wycliffe with an English translation, see J. Fox, Acts and Monuments, Volume 3, pages 4 through 13, Pratt Townsend edition, London, 1870. See also J. Lewis, Life of Wycliffe, pages 49 through 51, 305 to 314, edition 1820. Lechler, John Wycliffe and His English Precursors, Chapter 5, Section 2, pages 162 through 164, London edition, 1884, translated by Lorimer. A. Neander, General History of the Christian Church, Period 6, Section 2, Part 1, Paragraph 8. Page 86. Infallibility. On the doctrine of infallibility, see Catholic Encyclopedia, article Infallibility, contributed by P.J. Turner, S.T.D. George Salmon, The Infallibility of the Church. Charles Eliot, Delineation of Roman Catholicism, Book 1, Chapter 4. Cardinal Gibbons, The Faith of Our Fathers, Chapter 7, 49th edition, 1897. Page 103, Indulgences. See note for page 59. Page 104. Council of Constance. On the calling of the Council of Constance by Pope John the 23rd, at the instance of the Emperor Sigismund, see Mosheim, Ecclesiastical History, Book 3, Cent 15, Part 2, Chapter 2, Section 3. J. Dowling, History of Romanism, Book 6, Chapter 2, Paragraph 13. A. Bauer, History of the Popes, Volume 7, pages 141 through 143, London edition, 1766. Neander, History of the Christian Religion and Church, Period 6, Section 1, 1854, 5-volume edition, translated by Torrey, Volume 5, pages 94 through 101. Page 128, Indulgences. See note for page 59. Page 234, Jesuitism. For a statement concerning the origin, the principles, and the purposes of the Society of Jesus, as outlined by members of this order, see a work entitled Concerning Jesuits, edited by the Rev. John Gerard, S.J., and published in London 1902 by the Catholic Truth Society. In this work it is said that the mainspring of the whole organization of the Society is a spirit of entire obedience. "Let each one," writes St. Ignatius, "persuade himself that those who live under obedience ought to allow themselves to be moved and directed by divine providence through their superiors, just as though they were a dead body, which allows itself to be carried anywhere and to be treated in any manner whatever, or as an old man's staff which serves him who holds it in his hand in whatsoever way he will. This absolute submission is ennobled by its motive, and should be," continues the founder, "prompt, joyous, and persevering. The obedient religious accomplishes joyfully that which his superiors have confided to him for the general good, assured that thereby he corresponds truly with the divine will." The Comtesse Eyre de Courson, in Concerning Jesuits, page 6. See also L. E. Dupin, A Compendious History of the Church, Cent 16, Chapter 33, London edition, 1713, Volume 4, pages 132 through 135. Mosheim, Ecclesiastical History, Cent 16, Section 3, Part 1, Chapter 1, Paragraph 10, including Notes 5 and 6. Encyclopedia Britannica, 9th edition, article Jesuits. C. Paroissien, The Principles of the Jesuits, developed in a collection of extracts from their own authors, London, 1860. An earlier edition appeared in 1839. W. C. Cartwright, The Jesuits, Their Constitution and Teaching, London, 1876. E. L. Taunton, The History of the Jesuits in England, 1580 through 1773, London, 1901. Page 235, The Inquisition. See Catholic Encyclopedia, article Inquisition, contributed by J. Blutzer, S.J., Munich. H. C. Lee, History of the Inquisition in the Middle Ages. Limborch, History of the Inquisition, Volume 1, Book 1, Chapter 25, 27 through 31, London edition, 1731, translated by S. Chandler, Volume 1, pages 131 through 142, 144 through 161. L. von Ranke, History of the Popes, Book 2, Chapter 6. Page 265. Causes of the French Revolution. On the far-reaching consequences of the rejection of the Bible and of Bible religion by the people of France, see H. von Sibbel, History of the French Revolution, Book 5, Chapter 1, paragraphs 3 through 7. H. T. Buckle, History of Civilization in England, Chapters 8 and 12, New York edition, 1895, Volume 1, pages 364 through 366, 369 through 371, 437, 550, 540, 541. Blackwood's Magazine, Volume 34, Number 215, November 1833, page 739. J.G. Lorimer, An Historical Sketch of the Protestant Church in France, Chapter 8, paragraphs 6 and 7. Page 266, Prophetic Dates. See note for page 329. Page 267, Efforts to suppress and destroy the Bible. Referring to the long-continued efforts in France to suppress the Bible, particularly versions in the language of the common people, Gaussen says, "The decree of Toulouse, 1229, which established the tribunal of the Inquisition against all the readers of the Bible in the vulgar tongue, was an edict of fire, bloodshed, and devastation. In its 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th chapters, it ordained the entire destruction of the houses, the humblest places of concealment, and even the subterranean retreats of men convicted of possessing the Scriptures, that they should be pursued to the forests and caves of the earth, and that even those who harbored them should be severely punished. As a result, the Bible was everywhere prohibited. It vanished, as it were, underground. It descended into the tomb." These decrees were followed for 500 years by innumerable punishments, in which the blood of the saints flowed like water. L. Gaussen, The Canon of the Holy Scriptures, Part 2, Book 2, Chapter 7, Section 5, Prop 561, and Chapter 13, Section 2, Prop 641, Paragraph 2. On the special efforts made to destroy Bibles during the Reign of Terror, late in 1793, Dr. Lorimer says, "Wherever a Bible could be found, it might be said to be persecuted to death, so much so that several respectable commentators interpret the slaying of the 2 witnesses in the 11th chapter of the Apocalypse of the general suppression, nay, destruction, of the Old and New Testaments in France at this period." J.G. Lorimer, An Historical Sketch of the Protestant Church in France, Chapter 8, paragraph 4 and 5. See also G.P. Fisher, The Reformation, Chapter 15, paragraph 16. E. Petival, The Bible in France, Chapter 2, paragraph 3, 8 through 10, 13, and 21. Paris edition, 1864. G. H. Putnam, The Censorship of the Church of Rome, Volume 1, Chapter 4, 1906 edition, pages 97, 99, 101, and 102. Volume 2, Chapter 2, pages 15 through 19. S. Smiles, The Huguenots, Their Settlements, Churches, and Industries, etc., Chapter 1, paragraphs 32, 34, Chapter 2, paragraph 6, Chapter 3, paragraph 14, Chapter 18, paragraph 5, with note. S. Smiles, The Huguenots in France after the Revocation, Chapter 2, paragraph 8, Chapter 10, paragraph 30, Chapter 12, paragraphs 2 through 4. J. A. Wiley, History of Protestantism, Book 22, Chapter 6, paragraph 3. Page 276, The Reign of Terror. On the responsibility of misguided leaders, in both church and state, and particularly in the church, for the scenes of the French Revolution, see W. M. Sloan, The French Revolution and Religious Reform, Preface and Chapter 2, paragraphs 1, 2, 10 through 14, 1901 edition, pages 7 through 9, 19, 20, 26 through 31, 40. P. Schaff, in Papers of the American Society of Church History, Volume 1, pages 38, 44. S. Smiles, The Huguenots after the Revocation, Chapter 18, paragraphs 4, 6, 9, 10, 12 through 16, 27. J.G. Lorimer, An Historical Sketch of the Protestant Church of France, Chapter 8, paragraphs 6 and 7. A. Galton, Church and State in France, 1300 through 1907, Chapter 3, Section 2, London edition, 1907. Sir J. Stephen, Lectures on the History of France, Lecture 16, paragraph 60. Page 280, The Masses and the Privileged Classes. On social conditions prevailing in France prior to the period of the Revolution, see H. von Holst, Lowell Lectures on the French Revolution, Lecture 1. Also Taine, Ancient Régime, and A. Young, Travels in France. Page 283, Retribution. For further details concerning the retributive character of the French Revolution, see Thomas H. Gill, The Papal Drama, Book 10. E. de Pressensé, The Church and the French Revolution, Book 3, Chapter 1. Page 284. The Atrocities of the Reign of Terror. See M.A. Thiers, History of the French Revolution, Volume 3, pages 42 through 44, 62 through 74, 106. New York edition, 1890, translated by F. Schoberl. F.A. Mignet, History of the French Revolution, Chapter 9, Paragraph 1, Bonn edition, 1894. A. Allison, History of Europe, 1789 through 1815, Volume 1, Chapter 14, New York edition, 1872, Volume 1, pages 293 through 312. Page 287. The Circulation of the Scriptures. In 1804, according to Mr. William Canton of the British and Foreign Bible Society, all the Bibles extant in the world, in manuscript or in print, counting every version in every land, were computed at not many more than 4 millions. The various languages in which those 4 millions were written, including such bygone speech as the Meso-Gothic of Ulfilas and the Anglo-Saxon of Bede, are set down as numbering about 50. What is the Bible Society? Page 23, Revised Edition, 1904. 100 years later, at the close of its first centenary, the British and Foreign Bible Society was able to report a total distribution of Bibles, Testaments, or portions thereof, by that society alone, to the number of 186,680,101, a total that in 1910 had grown to upwards of 220 million copies, in nearly 400 distinct tongues. To these totals must be added the millions of copies of the Scriptures or portions thereof, in many languages, distributed by other Bible societies and by various commercial agencies. The American Bible Society, the greatest of the daughters of the British Parent Society, during the first 94 years of its work, reported a total distribution of 87,296,182 copies. See Bible Society Record, June, 1910. According to conservative estimates, about 6 million copies of the Bible are printed annually by commercial houses, which, added to the combined output of the Bible societies, gives a total yearly circulation of more than 15 million copies. The Scriptures, in whole or in part, have been printed in more than 500 distinct tongues, and the work of translation into new languages and dialects is still carried forward with unflagging zeal. Page 288. Foreign Missions. Dr. G. P. Fisher, in a chapter on Christian missions in his History of the Christian Church, outlines the beginnings of the missionary movement, which, in the later years of the 18th century, ushered in a brilliant era of missionary activity, an era which, in the history of missions, is only less remarkable than the first of the Christian ages. In 1792, the Baptist Society was founded, with Carey as one of its first missionaries. Carey sailed for India, and there, with the help of other members of the same society, founded the mission of Serampore. In 1795, the London Missionary Society was founded. In 1799, there was formed the organization which in 1812 became the Church Missionary Society. Soon afterward, the Wesleyan Missionary Society was founded. While the missionary activity was growing up in Great Britain, the Christians of America were becoming animated with a like zeal. In 1812 they founded the American Board of Commissioners for Foreign Missions, and in 1814 the American Baptist Missionary Union. Adoniram Judson, one of the first missionaries to go out from America, sailed for Calcutta in 1812, and reached Burma in July, 1813. In 1837 the Presbyterian Board was formed. C. Fisher, History of the Christian Church, Period 9, Chapter 7, Paragraphs 3 through 25. Dr. A. T. Pearson, in an article published in the Missionary Review of the World for January 1910, declares, "A half-century ago, China and Manchuria, Japan and Korea, Turkey and Arabia, and even the vast continent of Africa were sleeping, hermit nations locked in the cell of long seclusion and exclusion. Central Asia was comparatively unexplored, as was Central Africa. In many lands, Satan's long occupation was undisputed and his empire unmolested. Papal countries were as intolerant as pagan. Italy and Spain imprisoned a man for daring to sell a Bible or preach the gospel. France was practically infidel, and Germany permeated with rationalism. and over a large part of the mission field the doors were shut and locked by a more or less rigid exclusion and caste system. Now the changes on every side are so remarkable and so radical that, to one who should suddenly come out of this middle period of the last century, the world would be unrecognizable. He who holds the keys of the two-leaved gates has been unlocking them, opening up all lands to the messenger of the cross. Even in the Eternal City, where, a half-century ago, a visitor had to leave his Bible outside the walls, there are Protestant chapels by the score, and a free circulation of the Scriptures. Page 327. Prophetic dates. See note for page 329. Page 329. Prophetic dates. The historical and chronological facts connected with the prophetic periods of Daniel 8 and 9, including many evidences pointing unmistakably to the year 457 B.C. as the proper time from which to begin reckoning these periods, have been clearly outlined by many students of prophecy. See Stanley Leith's Old Testament Prophecy, Lectures 10 and 11, Warburton Lectures for 1876 through 1880, W. Good, Fulfilled Prophecy, Sermon 10, including Note A, Warburton Lectures for 1854 through 1858, A. Tom, Chronology of Prophecy, pages 26 through 106, London edition, 1848. Sir Isaac Newton, Observations upon the Prophecies of Daniel and the Apocalypse of St. John, chapter 10, London edition, 1733, pages 128 through 143. Uriah Smith, Thoughts on Daniel and the Revelation, Part 1, chapters 8 and 9. On the date of the crucifixion, see William Hale's Analysis of Chronology, Volume 1, pages 94 through 101. Volume 3, pages 164 through 258, Second London edition, 1830. Page 335. Fall of the Ottoman Empire. For further details as to the predicted fall of the Ottoman Empire during the month of August, 1840, see J. Litch, The Probability of the Second Coming of Christ about A.D. 1843, published in June, 1838. J. Litch, An Address to the Clergy, published in the spring of 1840. A second edition, with historical data in support of the accuracy of former calculations of the prophetic period extending to the fall of the Ottoman Empire, was published in 1841. The Advent Shield and Review, Volume 1, 1844, Number 1, Article 2, pages 56, 57, 59 through 61. J. N. Loughborough, The Great Advent Movement, pages 129 through 132, 1905 edition. J. Litch, Article in Signs of the Times and Expositor of Prophecy, August 1, 1840. See also article in Signs of the Times and Expositor of Prophecy, February 1, 1841. Page 340. Withholding the Bible from the people. On the attitude of the Roman Catholic Church toward the circulation of the Holy Scriptures in vernacular versions among the laity, see Catholic Encyclopedia, article Bible. Also G. P. Fisher, The Reformation, chapter 15, paragraph 16, 1873 edition, pages 530 through 532. J. Cardinal Gibbons, The Faith of Our Fathers, chapter 8, 49th edition, 1897, pages 98 through 117. J. Dowling, History of Romanism, Book 7, Chapter 2, Section 14, and Book 9, Chapter 3, Sections 24 through 27, 1871 edition, pages 491 through 496, 621 through 625. L. F. Bungner, History of the Council of Trent, pages 101 through 110, Second Edinburgh edition, 1853, translated by D. D. Scott. G. H. Putnam, Books and Their Makers During the Middle Ages, Volume 1, Part 2, Chapter 2, paragraphs 49, 54 through 56. Page 373. Ascension Robes. The story that the Adventists made robes with which to ascend to meet the Lord in the air was invented by those who wished to reproach the cause. It was circulated so industriously that many believed it, but careful inquiry proved its falsity. For many years a large reward has been offered for proof that one such instance ever occurred, but the proof has not been produced. None who loved the appearing of the Savior were so ignorant of the teachings of the Scriptures as to suppose that robes which they could make would be necessary for that occasion. The only robe which the saints will need to meet the Lord is the righteousness of Christ. See Revelation 19:8. Page 374. The Chronology of Prophecy. Dr. George Bush, professor of Hebrew and Oriental literature in the New York City University, in a letter addressed to Mr. Miller and published in the Advent Herald and Signs of the Times Reporter, Boston, March 6 and 13, 1844, made some important admissions relative to his calculation of the prophetic times. Mr. Bush wrote: "Neither is it to be objected, as I conceive, to yourself or your friends, that you have devoted much time and attention to the study of the chronology of prophecy, and have labored much to determine the commencing and closing dates of its great periods. If these periods are actually given by the Holy Ghost in the prophetic books, it was doubtless with the design that they should be studied, and probably in the end fully understood, and no man is to be charged with presumptuous folly who reverently makes the attempt to do this. In taking a day as the prophetical term for a year, I believe you are sustained by the soundest exegesis, as well as fortified by the high names of Meade, Sir Isaac Newton, Kirby, Scott, Keith, and a host of others, who have long since come to substantially your conclusions on this head. They all do agree that the leading periods mentioned by Daniel and John do actually expire about this age of the world, and it would be a strange logic that would convict you of heresy for holding in effect the same views which stand forth so prominently in the notices of these eminent divines. Your results in this field of inquiry do not strike me as so far out of the way as to affect any of the great interests of truth and duty. Your error, as I apprehend, lies in another direction than your chronology. You have entirely mistaken the nature of the events which are to occur when those periods have expired. This is the head and front of your expository offending." Page 399. Prophetic Dates. See note for page 329. Page 435. A threefold message. Revelation 14:6 and 7 foretells the proclamation of the first angel's message. Then the prophet continues, "There followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, is fallen. And the third angel followed them." The word here rendered "followed" means, in constructions like that in this text, to go with. Little and Scott render the word thus: to follow one, go after or with him. Robinson says, to follow, to go with, to accompany anyone. It is the same word that is used in Mark 5:24. Jesus went with him, and much people followed him and thronged him. It is also used of the redeemed 144,000, where it is said, "These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth." Revelation 14:4. In both these places it is evident that the idea intended to be conveyed is that of going together, in company with. So in 1 Corinthians 10:4, where we read of the children of Israel that they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, the word "followed" is translated from the same Greek word, and the margin has it, "went with them." From this we learn that the idea in Revelation 14:8 and 9 is not simply that the second and third angels followed the first in point of time, but that they went with him. The three messages are but one threefold message. They are three only in the order of their rise, but having risen, they go on together and are inseparable. Page 447. Supremacy of the Bishops of Rome. Some of the leading circumstances connected with the assumption of supremacy by the bishops of Rome are outlined in Mosheim's Ecclesiastical History, Cent. 2, Part 2, Chapter 4, Sections 9 through 11. See also G.P. Fisher, History of the Christian Church, Period 2, Chapter 2, paragraphs 11 through 17, 1890 edition, pages 56 through 58. Giesler, Ecclesiastical History, Period 1, Division 3, Chapter 4, Section 66, paragraph 3, including Note 8. New York edition, 1836, translated by F. Cunningham. J. N. Andrews, History of the Sabbath, pages 276 through 279, third edition, revised. Page 574, Edict of Constantine. See note for page 53. Page 578, The Abyssinian Church. On the observance of the Bible Sabbath in Abyssinia, see Dean A. P. Stanley, Lectures on the History of the Eastern Church, Lecture 1, paragraph 15, New York edition, 1862, pages 96-97. Michael Geddes, Church History of Ethiopia, pages 87, 88, 311, 312. Gibbon, Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, chapter 47, paragraphs 37 through 39. Samuel Gobat, Journal of 3 Years' Residence in Abyssinia, pages 55 through 58, 83, 93, 97, 98. New York edition, 1850. A. H. Lewis, A Critical History of the Sabbath and the Sunday in the Christian Church, pages 208 through 215, second edition, revised. Page 581, Dictates of Hildebrand. See note for page 57. End of Appendix. End of The Great Controversy by Ellen G. White.